I don't like review scores. I feel that they are inefficient when it comes to judging a game. They don't tell the full story of a video game's quality and can be a little bit misleading due to reviewers' bias. And I understand why they exist. They're a quick and easy way to give the customer information, not just whether the game is good or not, but also how good it is so they can make more informed purchasing decisions. Games are complex. Their quality comes from multiple factors: the gameplay, the story, the graphics, performance, and so many factors. There are so many moving parts that define the quality that the simple number just cannot explain. The score is just a summary, a table at that, because just assigning a number doesn't tell the full story. There are a lot of nuances influencing your opinion on a video game that a simple number just can't express. There will be some parts that a game does exceedingly well, and some parts it feels at, and others it just does fine. Maybe I place more value on a particular aspect than others. Maybe I played that game for a specific thing, and the game feels at that in my eyes. And don't get me started on the it's a good game, but not a good insert franchise game. What if the game goes on a different direction than the franchise is known for? What about remakes? What makes a good remake? Is it a good remake or is it just a good game? What about adaptations? I could go on, but you could get the picture. There are so many questions to answer that a simple score isn't enough to answer. But that's just a small part of a bigger issue. The gaming community is a very diverse community with varying cultures, preferences, and tastes. Each person having his own set of preferences, meaning every person interprets a game differently. Video games are arts, and art is subjective. If you are a fan of a Zelda game, you are more likely to give a positive review of a Zelda game than a non-Zelda game. If you like a genre, your review on a game of said genre tends to be more positive than other genres. You get the picture. If a video game panders more with our preferences and our tastes, we are more likely to give the more positive view than those who don't. Now, combine that with my first point about the game's complexity, and you can see why review scores are extremely inefficient. They take a nuanced, subjective opinion and present it in an objective light. And that's problematic. So you can see why people get angry when a review site gives a lower or a higher score than the general consensus. It's not that bad when an individual creator does it because the audience listening to that creator likely has similar biases. But when a renowned review site that champions their review as the ultimate judgment of a game and makes their content towards a broad gaming audience, that's a problem. And you will notice the usual reaction of those outlier reviews from review sites. They get mocked, roasted, and sometimes even memed on. And we are prone to that popularity bias. If you are given a certain information over and over again, most especially without any conflicting ones, you are more likely to believe that information as a fact. Of all the people that say GTA 5 is a masterpiece, there are some who believe so despite not playing the game in the first place. Outliers exist. For every game that's massively loved, there's always someone who genuinely dislikes the game and vice versa. There are some massively liked games that I just don't like. Here's an example. And the thing is that it always happens. Not everyone follows the same biases that everyone else follows. That's where Metacritic comes in. At first glance, it looks like a useful tool. It collects all the scores given by reviewers and critics and gives an average score based on said scores. You could see the ratio amongst positive, negative, and mixed reviews, and it gives somewhat of a detailed report of the game's scores. But the problem is how it makes the popularity bias worse, since most people will just see the average score and go with it, and get angry with any outlier that reduced the score even slightly. Now you could say leave Metacritic and focus on the user score, but they are still prone to popularity bias anyway, so that doesn't really help at all. It is not rocket science. I do not have to say it in the video, but a 7 is not a bad score. It has been a sentiment that I've been seeing in gaming discourse nowadays. If a game is rated 7 and sometimes 8 nowadays, it's not considered a good score or a good game. Forget my gripes with review scores. The standards people use to rate games with scores is widely inconsistent with what the score was meant to say. Normally, between 1 to 4 are basically terrible games, 5 is mediocre, 6 is slightly mediocre, 7 is good, 8 is way good, 9 is close to perfection, and 10 is what you would consider a masterpiece. How is a masterpiece is up to the person viewing the game. A 7 is supposed to scratch an itch to do what it's set out to do and dip. It's a fast food of gaming and it's fine. It's okay for a game to just be okay. Not every game needs to be this high quality, meticulously made game. Hell, I don't even think most games will pull it off for that matter. But again, we speak strongly of games that fall in either of the extreme ends. So again, review scores tend to be inflated, and 7 is considered to be just something that is not even worth your time or money or energy. Now, I want to talk about gaming journalists, more specifically the review sites. I pointed out how they always get into controversy for outlier reviews, and to be honest, it's not that hard to know why. They position themselves as the authoritative sources of opinions on video games to a point that it is their literal responsibility to create objectively agreeable reviews on whatever products they review. You see, the reason why these reviews can be polarizing is not because the site itself gave Dragon Ball Spark Zero a 7 out of 10. This person did. This person gave Last of Us Part 2 a perfect 10, and this person gave Space Marine 2 an 8. And speaking of IGN scores, let's talk about IGN for a while. We all know about IGN giving sevens out like flyers, but there's a bit of context to this. Sparking Zero is the latest game in the seven, so let's look at a couple of games sharing the same score. As you can see, these games are not the same when it comes to quality and reviewers, yet they share the same score for some reason. Looks absurd at first sight, but let me cook for a while. Now, look at the author of those published reviews. Sparky Zero was reviewed by this person, and this is the only Dragon Ball game he has ever reviewed on this site. He has reviewed over 30 games, and the highest score is shared between Dragon's Dogma 2 and the last two WWE 2K games. So, what about the other games? Well, the one that reviewed Concord reviewed a lot of games apparently. Games like Power World, Bloods of the Fallen, Sonic Frontiers, and even Lies of P. The one who reviewed Star Wars Outlaws reviewed games all the way back to 2010. The one who reviewed Starfield and its DLC reviewed a couple of RPGs like Mass Effect and Fallout 4. And the person who reviewed Dustpaw reviewed 3 games? What? Here's the thing. These people obviously have their own biases and preferences, and it reflects in their reviews. But the problem is that they are all bundled under the IGN banner to the point that it looks like IGN gave the reviews, not the individual reviewers. So of course, it looks like IGN is biased and confused. Remember what I said about reading the review and ignoring the score? Yeah, it turns out that when you actually read the review, the score makes a lot of sense. Mostly. His Parkzero review is very positive, saying how much he liked the roster, the story, and custom missions and the online play. He didn't like the menu, saying that a bit outdated, and complained about the training mode not teaching certain techniques properly. Even the verdict had a positive conclusion, but nobody read the review and just said, oh, IGN just being dumb again. IGN just gave 7 just because once again. Also, it's actually wild that he made a list of the best Dragon Ball games and Sparky Zero made the list. He literally considered Sparky Zero one of the best Dragon Ball games. And there's an outcry because the game got a 7. Wow. Alright, so what should we do? Should we just discard reviews? I don't think so. I'm not saying discard reviews. They are the best way to find a game to play if you are on the fence on which one to play. But at the very least, let's just be a bit more proactive. Find someone with similar tastes as yours and check for their recommendations. And be aware that every review is just an opinion on subjective preferences. Form your own opinions about the game outside the gigantic echo chamber that is called social media. Don't let the gaming discourses influence how you feel about the game you played. Because trust me, the more you let that happen, the harder it will be to defend your opinion. Don't use a score as a crutch to justify your feelings about the video game and tell people why you view a game a certain way from your perspective. What you enjoyed or disliked about it, and for God's sake, be constructive about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.